Hey, welcome to Builder Funnel Radio. This is episode 55 with Rob Baugher. And in this episode, we dive into a number of different things. Rob has actually been in the industry for 46 years as a remodeler. He's owned 25 different businesses, so he brings a wealth of knowledge. And there are a couple of cool highlights in here that I'll give you a quick preview. One is that he talks about how to speed up your production process and how you can actually turn overhead money into net profit. Very, very cool. And then we also talk about selling the experience versus the end result and how to differentiate yourself. So I think you're going to get a ton out of this episode. Take some notes. There's some great actionable things, but it's also kind of just inspirational. And it got me fired up thinking about how to think about some things a little bit differently. So stay tuned for episode 55 with Rob Baugher. Hey, Rob, glad to have you on the show today.
Thanks, Spencer. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation because, a number of reasons, but one of those reasons is that you've been remodeling for 46 years, and so you've got a wealth of knowledge to share with our listeners. But we've also been kind of connecting over Homewood of all places. And so that's where you're from. And I've got some extended family there as well. But I guess maybe you can just kind of kick us off by telling our audience, how did you get into the remodeling space? Where did this all start?
I mentioned that my dad had a hobby of refinishing furniture. And I loved being a part of anything he was doing. And as we got into that, there were so many tools that I was not allowed to use. And so I think this is my revenge. And so, through the years, I just bought everything that I ever dreamed about wanting as far as tools and equipment. And actually later, I asked him to take early retirement and join me in the business. And so we worked together for another 20 years. And I will always enjoy those memories of actually being able to work side by side while doing home remodeling. It was fun.
That's awesome. That's
so
super
anyway,
cool.
That's how we got into that. And then later I had an opportunity to join an apprenticeship program with a union to learn how to be a journeyman carpenter. And then before that 4 years was up, I had joined together with some other friends and relatives to start a remodeling company. And we thought we could make it work. We hoped we could make what we were making as union carpenters, and it took off. And then we began to learn the business side of doing this industry, something that we really had no knowledge about at all. And that really, from there, I continued. Anytime I got a chance, I would take other classes and certifications. I hold about 7 certifications from the National Association of Home Building, and I learned a lot that way, and was really, really appreciated what they made available to all of us, because there was no place to get information or education other than really, when I started, there were no conventions, there were no books, there really was nothing in this industry. So all that industry has changed during the last 46 years.
Yeah, there's a wealth of information out there now, which is nice. But I'm sure you were kind of hunting for that information at the time. And that's interesting that, I think a lot of these guys that are listening, start in a similar way, where you on the tools, you learn the craft, you learn the trade, and then you find yourself a business owner and you go, oh, interesting. Now I've got to figure out all these things about leadership and finance. And, I guess, do you have any just quick recommendations for people that are true craftsmen and experts? What would you say to them in terms of, prioritizing learning the actual business side versus the craft side?
That's and there are some things, again, the National Association of Home Builders and Remodelers, that they teach their courses that deal with those things. The best thing, there's several other books out there. There are a few other guys out there. Michael Stone's books are really good. Michael has done a great job. You have, Victoria Downing and Linda Case have done a great job with Remodeler's Advantage. Some of those guys, Les Cunningham, with Business Networks, those guys did such a good job in pushing this industry, to different levels. And I encourage, everybody to check out those resources, I guess is the word we want to use. It's great. And I continue to read business books. And I actually found out I could borrow from other industries by reading business books and figure out how they were doing something and then turn around and see how I could apply it. And that worked really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think you can pick up those same strategies that other people are using in other industries and just go, oh, okay, if I apply this here. A lot of times I find the construction industry is a little bit slower to adopt either new strategies or new technology. And so if you are taking those things from other industries, then you can find yourself getting ahead. I want to ask you, because I know, you've been in the space, you've seen a lot. I know you've kind of coached and mentored people along the way too, as you grew your business and figured a lot of these things out. What are maybe some of the big pitfalls or mistakes that you see people making in this industry?
Probably the most popular request that I get, literally to the point where I get tired of it, it's always three things. It's like, how do I advertise my business? How do I sell my product? And how do I produce it? I don't get a lot of questions about the production part, because everyone's a tradesman. They already have their hands pretty well deep into the industry, and so they can, with that, they understand they believe that they understand the production part, and I'll put it that way. So they're mainly asking, how can I promote my business, and how can I sell better, in order to get a better price? That's the biggest thing. Someone asked me years ago, I bought other businesses through the years, and I've owned 25 businesses. I always owned a remodeling company, but I would buy other trade businesses, plumbing companies, electrical companies, mainly because I wanted to understand how they function and how they worked. And in that, someone had asked me one time, one of my businesses was going under, and they asked me what was the number one thing that caused it to fail. And I said, honestly, I think I've come up with a list of 30 things that caused my business to fail. And,
just a short list, right?
Yeah. It was like, there's so many things that I don't know about business. And so with that, I really decided I'm going to find out how to do these things and apply them, to the businesses that I have, in order to learn how to produce and how to handle my finances, on the jobs, and how to really, do, when I say produce, I mean really increase the speed of production. And I needed to learn how to market. And of course I wanted to learn how to market, where it didn't cost me so much. And I wanted to learn how to sell and what works and what doesn't work. And I realized that I actually needed to take notes every time I got through with a meeting. I needed to sit down and write down what happened. And when I said that, how did they react? And maybe I don't need to say that again. It's like, maybe that's one of the first ways I can improve. And so it was really study the entire process to figure out how to do this better. And someone said, well, how did you finally get it to work? And I said, I really think it's the fact that you just don't give up. Is that you hit a wall, you hit a problem, and you just start digging in to find out, how do I do that better? How can I keep this from happening ever again? And I think that's I just flat wore it out, to where problems, it's like we finally figured out the parts and pieces that we needed to stop the troubles that we were having in the business.
Yeah, that's awesome advice, because I feel like sometimes we're looking for some magic answer, and sometimes the answer is just keep grinding at it until you crack it, just keep working at it, right?
Someone said a couple of days ago, what is the secret phrase you use to close these big, bigger deals? And I said, actually, the secret phrase is for you to answer this question to me: what is different about you than the other guy? I said, if you can define the things that are different about you and your company, I said, that's what makes the difference. I said, we do 13 things that other companies don't do. Some companies do 3 or 4 of those things, but none of them do all 13 of these. And so I make sure that they know that in my first sales meetings with them. These are the things that we do that the other companies are not going to offer you. And you have to differentiate yourself in order to get their attention. It's kind of, it's like you have to shock someone to get their attention, and then they'll listen. And so you make that list, and that's how you move from being basically just a guy who can drive nails and turn out a product into someone who can create a remodeling experience that they're going to enjoy. That's the challenge. It's like, how can we really make this a fun process, and how can we solve these problems so that people actually enjoy remodeling, having their home torn to shreds.
Right. Yeah. Sounds like a ball of fun. Yeah. Well, I like how you said that you distilled it down to 13 things that made you different. And that's something I've been talking about a lot, is just this idea that, USP, or, your unique selling proposition, or what makes you really different. And I think a lot of times we think, being in business for 20 plus years, or being family owned, or having high quality, these things make us different. But then we realize everybody's saying those things. So can you give us a couple of examples of things that are truly differentiators, or at least maybe a couple of ideas on how somebody can go about identifying maybe how they might be different?
Sure. We always immediately start talking about 3 to 5 different things with the clients. One of the first things is that we do that's different is we have a full-time project manager who is on their job all day, every day. And most of my friends say, we can't afford to do that. And I said, well, we figured out how to afford to do that so that the job is under control. And, one thing I realized back in I guess it was in the mid 80s, was that every ad that was in the Yellow Pages advertised quality and honesty. I'm the honest contractor. I do quality work. And one day it was like, how do you differentiate yourself? And then I realized my customer actually assumes that I'm going to do quality, or they wouldn't call me. They didn't look for someone who they thought couldn't do quality.
Right,
and
yeah.
they assume that I'm honest. So you take those 2 assumptions and set them aside. Now, what is it that I'm really selling to them? They said, what you're really doing is you're getting inside their head when you're selling to them, and you're talking about what the experience is going to be like. So when I sit down with a client, I'm going to talk about the project manager who's going to take care of the job. He's going to control the job. He's going to make sure that they're safe. He's going to make sure that their kids are secure. We're going to do this in a way that's convenient to them by keeping the job clean, and that we're going to provide service to them. We're going to be opening the door for the subcontractors as they come and go all day long. We're going to make sure that the job stays clean all the way through the job. If there's a problem, we're going to immediately take care of it in a matter of seconds, not in a matter of hours or days, but we have a project manager on site who solves that problem right now. And so we discuss with them our process, and I actually sell the process. I'm not selling the remodeling. We can do the production work. We can build the job that they want. And we have the pictures and the evidence to prove that we've done that. But what they really want is someone who's going to take them on this journey. So what I'm really doing is describing the vehicle we're going to put them in for this journey. Like, everybody can sell, a base model car. I'll try not to mention a brand, but there's a reason why they make brands that are different, and there are different things that every brand of car, contributes. And it's like, if you want this feature, it only comes with this car. One of the things that we do is, for example, if you want a car that has more horsepower, it's like you can't get that in a really cheap car, a really basic car. And the reason for having more horsepower is because of speed. You want to be able to go faster occasionally, of course. And so along that line, I have to be careful. I'll give something away. Along that line, it's we explain to them that we will do the job for them 40% faster than any other contractor. And we promise them that. If the job that we're talking about takes 10 weeks to do, we will promise that we can finish that job in 6 weeks. And what we've done is develop processes and procedures. Having that full-time project manager makes a huge difference. Every one of our jobs, for example, is put on a timeline. Every day, every half day is scheduled before we ever start the job. And by doing those basic principles, what has happened is our jobs have been getting faster and faster through the years so that we can actually complete the entire project faster and get out of their hair. The other thing is we do it for the same price as all the other good guys in town. We're not charging more than the good guys. Our price is higher than people who are guessing or don't know what they should be charging, but we're not having to charge a premium for that service. So our cost comparison is the same as the others. It's our service and the way that we can deliver that service and take care of them that is what they're really buying. They're buying the safety. One fellow told me, if you can do this for my family, if they will be secure while I'm traveling with business and they'll be safe and my kids will be safe. And we have policies where there's no tobacco use on the job, no drugs, alcohol, there's no profanity allowed on the job site. And we do that as a service to our client. And the guy told me, I'll pay you $5,000 extra if you do this for my family. If you'll take care of my family this way. That's what we're after. That's what we're after, is someone who looks at this and says, if I can give, this homeowner a better experience, they will pay for it. In the same way that you can buy a hotel room for $35 a night or $350 a night. They actually build, think about that, Spencer, they build hotels that charge $350 a night and people pay it and they stay in business. It's like, I'm looking for that client. That's what I want. I want that guy. But what comes with that is you better have your act together. You better have your service together. And you better have everything about that job ready. Every contract, every document, every change order. Make it smooth. Let there be a process that makes this whole thing work and work well, and where everybody can win in doing this job together. And we use all subcontractors. And so, and because of that, we really have to build a team with those trade contractors in order to succeed.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think there's a lot of takeaways in there, but I think, one of the big ones was, selling the experience, not that, that finished product or the production. Like you said, everybody's in the business, so they should be able to do that, some slower, some faster, but what you're really doing is selling that experience. And I want to shift gears just a little bit. I know when you and I first connected, you kind of talked about this idea of being small and mighty. And I think, most people, we like to talk about growth, right? Like increase sales and increase, all these things. And we're trying to push everything to the max. But, I think this concept of small and mighty is interesting. So I guess, can you kind of talk about that a little bit and kind of explain what you mean?
Sure. I mean, we, like everyone else, we chased the volume. It was like I had a goal, I needed 10 million in leads every year in order to, produce the kind of work that we wanted to do. I had $6 million worth of work that we were pricing at any time, and we were chasing it. And then we realized, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. And as I sat back and I kept thinking about that, it's like, is all of this tied to just the gross volume that we produce? Or can we maximize profit instead of trying to maximize our volume? And so we concentrated on maximizing our profit, and then deciding at what point, it's like, is there a point where, and some of the clients that I work with now, they actually called me recently that our marketing for them was working really good, and they actually had too much work coming in and they needed to shut off the marketing because they had so many leads coming in, they were already booked up, and they were concerned, about that. And it's like, so you can do the marketing, then the question is, do I have the right clients? And so we were getting a really high closing ratio with our clients. And I heard the concept that I shouldn't be closing as many jobs as I was getting. And so I set a new record. Okay, well, we're just going to try to close, let's say 60% of whoever calls us. And And then after we did that, for a while, it was like, well, maybe I need to narrow it down. I need to be more specific and more picky with the clients. And so we set a new goal of 10%, which I know sounds ridiculous. The industry average is 30% of closing ratios. And, but we really felt if we were going to filter down to the best client, then we set a goal for 10. We actually never hit that goal. We always were able to close 30% of our clients, but we attacked it with that kind of attitude. Does this couple get along good with each other? Do they have there been any warning signs during our design meetings with them? Is there any question about the financing on the job? How far out is the job? Is this a long distance job, or is it local? And we started getting in tighter and tighter because it really came down to I wanted a good job that was going to be profitable. And so we actually wound up shrinking the size of the company, and in order to maximize the profits. And so the benefit of that is I have a friend now who does about 15 million a year in volume with his business. And we were talking and sharing information, and I handed him my books and he handed me his, and we just sat down and scrutinized everything. And we got through, and he said, okay, I see what you're doing, but your volume is not that high. And I said, well, no, not compared to yours. And I said, but my income is higher than yours. And that's how I got his attention. It was like, because what I decided is I wanted to make, with as little risk, as little exposure and risk as I could, I wanted to make as much as I could. So I wanted to make it 10% of gross volume as my owner income, but then I wanted to maximize the profit side of it. And by doing that, we actually are able now to run our company where we pay for our materials, and our labor and our subcontractors, and then I pay our project managers. I pull my income out, and then I pay all my overhead expenses, and my profit margin averages 29% net. And so with that, it's like, if you add my income to that, I actually wind up making 39% of the sales price of the job on every job that I do. It gives me freedom to pick and choose my jobs. I can expand my company if I want to, or I can shrink it. The key is to maximize the profit margin so that you're making a fabulous income without the risk involved. In order, to do the 15 million a year, he has incredible insurance payments that he has to pay on that kind of volume. I don't have those kind of payments, and so with that I have savings, on my overhead expenses. And so we just found out how to do that so that we could have a very comfortable business that paid us as if we were a, Fortune 500 CEO, and could enjoy doing the jobs with the very best clients. And then by doing that, what happened is our closing ratios started going up again, as we would pick through and would target our marketing, something that a lot about, to actually find the client, so that my phone doesn't ring unless it's that client that we have branded the company to come to us. And so now it's like our closing ratio is 93%. If my phone rings, that person is going to sign a design price agreement with me, and then they're going to sign a construction contract with me for the remodeling project. The 93% closing ratio. That's very comfortable. I don't think that we do. And so even in our marketing, where you can put a blast out to Google, and it's like setting off a nuclear bomb, and you've got everybody in the world calling you. You need full-time staff just to sift through the phone calls that are going to come in. And instead, we have our specific clients who call us, who already have a really good idea from our brand who we are and what we do, and it's incredibly efficient. And so, and again, it frees on is how much time involvement does it take for me to produce what we're doing, and to give me a lifestyle business that I want. So I can take month-long vacations and pretty much what I want to.
Yeah, that's
because I don't have the stress that I would have if I had 50 employees.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, well, first of all, that's pretty incredible. I've never heard somebody in the industry talking about having those sort of profit margins. And I'd imagine a lot of listeners are going, "Holy smokes!" Because I bet a lot of them aren't even close to that. And so, my question is, what types of major decisions do you have to make something like that even possible? Because I would imagine that when you first hear that, you go, okay, oh, that's an outlier. That's no way can I do that, And I want to get people listening to this thinking, okay, let me just reframe this. How would that be possible? And so, what are maybe two or three things, maybe decisions you have to make or things you have to consider that can help you get on that path towards higher net profit? And I'll maybe just jump in real quick. I'm guessing one of those is that actually you said that you price your jobs pretty similarly, but you finish 40% faster. So I would imagine that process is one of those things. But anyway, I'll let you jump in and kind of open our eyes to this new world.
And that really was the key. What we did is our goal was to improve by 1% every day. If I ask you to improve your business by 50%, you'd say, I can't do it. I can't make that. There's no way I can do it. It's impossible. But if I ask you to improve by 1%, you go, well, anybody could do that. But the truth is, in 50 days, you would have improved your business by 50. But you give yourself a vision, and that's how I start everybody with, is we give ourselves a vision of what we can do, and we keep it simple. It's like, I just need to improve something by 1% every day. Maybe it's my contract. Maybe it's the way that I write my scope of work. Maybe it's how I do change orders. Maybe it's how I collect my money. And so what we do is we make all those improvements. And we actually came under, we were trying to be better. And by accident, we found out we were getting faster on the job sites. And what happened is we were reviewing the books, and we were like, a job that used to take us, 4 weeks was taking us 3 weeks to do, 25% faster on this. What's going on? And they were like, we don't know. It's just everything's where it needs to be. And we have all the materials are there because we've cleaned up how we order materials, and all the extra supplies are on the site ahead of time, so we don't have to make extra trips. And you can see the pattern that's beginning here, Spencer, is that all of those little decisions were adding up and creating something new that we didn't realize. But when we saw that was happening, we said, well, what if we concentrated on this and we actually tried to get faster? And so then it was figuring out, as we got more and more into the timeline, scheduling everything on 3 trade contractors at the same time. There was somebody working on the inside of the house, on the outside of the house, and up on the roof at the same time. And so we were shrinking. The schedule of production was shrinking. And it took 2 years, and we got it down to 40% faster. So we can do a 10-week job in 6 weeks. We can, one of my clients asked me if we could redo their kitchen while they were out of town for a week. And we were like, well, I don't know. Let us go think about it. And I said, seriously, a class. And we sat down and began to draw out the schedule on the board of how we could do their kitchen or a bath in 1 week. And at the end of 8 weeks, we had actually done that we had charted out how we would do that. And so we went back to them and agreed to do their kitchen while they were on vacation. And an average kitchen for us is probably $65,000. So they left, we came in, tore everything out, started putting the plumbing changes, ordered everything, got the stone countertops in, cabinets finished, room painted, floored, everything, and we finished in 1 week. The amazing thing about that is that that's not 40% faster. For us, in my community, it probably takes 5 weeks to do a kitchen. We could typically do a kitchen in 3 weeks, but to do it in 1 week, look at what happened to the money. It's like we picked up $65,000 in 1 week of time. And then the rest of the story started coming together because we project. And the job was over. The customer was thrilled. Our project manager on site was thrilled because the job went so smoothly and everything just hit like clockwork. Everybody was happy. They paid normal price for the product. But what happened was that we realized we had 2.5 weeks of overhead money and there was no place to spend it. And when that happens, all of that money falls through a crack and winds up in net profit. So by actually doing each individual job faster like that, we actually are able to turn overhead money into profit money because we don't need the overhead because we got through with the job so quickly. And that was one of the huge secrets to this. When we finish a job in 6 weeks that is supposed to take 10 weeks at expense of all of our overhead costs in the business, instantly turns into net profit. And on top of that, we have an extra month to sell to another customer so that we can be producing at 140% for the year, where the year before we were producing at 100%. So there's more work that you can do in the same amount of time. And every time you do it, there's a compounding action where that money is dropping down to the bottom line. And not only that, but with that, then there are other cost savings. We shopped our materials more. We began to negotiate with our vendors for cash discounts. We looked for anything that could possibly affect that, just a little bit more, a little, bit higher percentage. And that's really how all that came together, is that we use the timelines to help us control the jobs. We use the full-time project manager on site, all day, every day, to get that thing done and managed and produced. And my project managers are not allowed to wear tools. These are just managers. All they do is manage. And they finish that job, they wrap up, and they can go right to the next job. And one of the things that I do with my project managers is do that job. So if they get through in 6 weeks, they get a 40% increase in their pay. And so I don't penalize them for finishing early. I incentivize them. Project manager's happy, and then the company is receiving this compounded dividend because the company is running better, and we can go immediately right into the next project. So that's kind of a snapshot of how that works.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Stay with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. I've just been taking some mental notes, and yeah, that's incredible. And I can see, just focusing on the timeline and speeding that up, how that would have such a big impact. And then, like you said, you just look for all these little things that could start compounding on that. But I mean, yeah, that big one is, I like the way you phrase it, kind of unlocking that overhead money and turning it into net profit, and that's really what that process does. So yeah, I think that's super cool. So anybody listening, hopefully they'll start kind of looking at their timeline and going, okay, can I shape it by 5% or 10%? You start small, incremental, and you keep whittling away at it. So that's awesome. Well, I know you've been in the remodeling space. You've owned 25 different companies. You said you picked up some trades along the way, but now I know you're kind of shifting into more of the coaching, consulting, speaking kind of world. I guess what inspired you to make that leap? Was it just because you felt like you mastered this process, or you just enjoy working with other remodelers, or what caused that transition?
You know, when I looked back on how I started in the business and I didn't have anyone to help me, that was a major impact on my life. It's a horrible, lonely experience when you're doing that. When you're trying to build a business by yourself. Anyone trying to build a business understands that. But to have no resources and no knowledge, and now you have things. You have the internet. You have access to, again, books and information that were not out there. You know, great companies, these massive companies that are doing such good work, helping remodelers. And it really got to the point where, okay, we've hit this and we've hit this stride. So now the question is, I can do this at this point in my life. I can do this for another 10 years, let's say. Or what if I could take this and put it together and help other remodelers to do what we did? To be able to say, I know you're having a problem with this. Actually, we made that mistake. Here's what we did to solve it. Do you think this would work for you? And really just have a conversation. And so what I did, actually, I basically wrapped things up and pushed my appointments to the next month. And I took off and I went to the beach for a month. And I sat down and collected all my notes and basically wrote a book, which is still in the process of being edited. But it's like, how would you do it? How would you tell someone else to do these things? And so I basically just sat there for a month and tried to define how somebody would do that. And once I got that, then the book has gone to editing. But I realized that I could actually teach this like it's a course, or I could use this to train someone else. And so I do 1 year consulting with people now, and then I also do 3-day events. And I explained to them, I said, it's a workout, because basically we have a conversation for 20 hours. And in order to explain, we start at the beginning and we talk about the vision that they need for their company. And then we just go through all of the processes of how to run the company. And we do talk about production, and we talk about sales, and we talk about, the marketing. And, but then I always ask them, what about the other 24 things that you need to know? Because in all of these things can. And I said, you need to know how to handle these things. And so that really was born out of the fun of being able to do what I want to do, and at the same time work with other remodelers. And our tagline is I think that's the first time I've ever used that term, but our tagline is that we can save you 3 decades of grief just by going through either a 3-day event or by, we'll do a 1-year consult to help your company grow, and then we walk away. And I want to see somebody help remodeling companies the way, for the guys that are eager to learn and are willing, and are teachable. Then I want to give them that information in a lump sum and solve those problems and get them working to be profitable. I want to, and on a side effect, it's like 50% of marriages are failing because of money. And it's like, well, if we can fix that, then that's part of our gift, to helping these people. Is like, not only if I can make that remodeling business successful, but then they're paying all of their subcontractors, and their subcontractors, their lives have changed, and the community's life has changed, and you're actually doing something that can have a tremendous effect just by dealing with the basics of helping someone to be successful in the remodeling industry. And so remodeling has always been, I started out as a remodeler. I'm still offended if somebody calls me a builder. It's like, no, I'm a remodeler. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. And I don't think of myself as a builder. I actually think of building as a completely different trade. Remodeling is unique. A builder wants no one to be at the house, and they want to build a house. A remodeler moves in with them. It's like, you have to be a little bit psycho to do what we do, to take on that kind of pain. And but it really came down to that, Spencer. It was like, what would be the most fun? And that's That's what you want to get to. Ask yourself that question and then figure out, how can I build that business? And, and and somebody said, well, why are you doing that? And I said, it really comes down to, I'm going to need pallbearers one day. And so I need to have a bunch of friends who can carry the casket. And so if I can help them with their business, it's like, man, I've created a life that I can just feel really good about. And so that's what's driving it, is that how can we solve those problems and get people further along the line to success,
Yeah.
or at least know why their business failed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think, I don't know, in some ways it's a natural transition, but I like how you brought it back to, I mean, it's exciting, it's fun to you, and there's kind of that purpose behind it that has that ripple effect to other companies, their families, their communities, and you can see that, happening, and it all starts from, that knowledge that you can pass along, and then it just kind of spreads from there. So, yeah, that's,
Also, you've got remodelers who are paying their bills on time. How does that affect a vendor? Would a vendor be excited about that? Yeah, wouldn't it'd make a huge difference?
yeah,
And I push the guys to, ask for a cash discount, so
yeah,
so that the vendor gets money even faster. So anyway,
I
it's
like
just it sounded, and it was the kind of thing, the more I thought about it, it was like, this would really be fun. And I had already built my business to where it was everything was subcontracted. We all subcontract our legal services and our accounting, our CPA. I just decided that I would outsource my secretary and my design staff, and then now, of course, I even outsource my project managers. So I can run a corporation of one, and I can expand the company when I want to, or shrink it when I want to. When the economy goes sour, I can shrink the company. I never have to fire anybody. If things are taken off, there's an influx of jobs, and I can grow the company. It takes a lot of pressure off of you, and so it's the kind of thing that um, sounded like fun, and it has been. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I really enjoy it.
that's awesome. That's cool. Well, I got a couple more questions for you, but before I get to those, if people want to connect with you, or learn more about you, and maybe either the consulting or the 3-day event, or maybe just, pick your brain for a couple minutes. I don't know if that's something that you do, but how can people find you or get connected?
Well, my email address is rob@remodelit.info, or they can call me 205-283-1955. And with any of them, it's like I spend an hour with folks. I talk to people every day, and sometimes it's just to have a conversation. Sometimes they call from something like this and they're not interested in a consultant or attending any kind of learning experience, and that's fine. And my goal is to encourage them and help them, and wind up making another friend who potentially is somebody I get to stay in touch with. And so it's a lot of fun.
Cool. All right. Well, it just hit me. One of the reasons I love this industry is I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and a lot of times, like, there's a section where you can say, hey, how do you connect with the guest? And in no other industry I had so many people say, here's my cell phone number, give me a call. And I mean, you're not the first to do it, but I love it. I love it. It's super cool. We're going to transition though into our last segment of the show. It's called the Fast Five, and we're going to do kind of some rapid fire questions. And so I'll just hit you with those and we'll see what you got. But what's your favorite business book and why?
I think it was probably Michael Gerber's E-Myth, and now it's E-Myth for Contractors. And the reason is Gerber understands business, and he came at this from a different angle, but he absolutely understands the whole concept of a tradesperson, turning into an owner and what they go through. And that was the amazing thing about him. He's probably written about 7 other books. I don't recommend that you read any of those. Ones that are going to help you really are those the original book, E-Myth, or E-Myth for Contractors. We were inspired. Actually, he tells a story in one of those books that we read back in the 90s about a guy who was doing kitchens in 3 days. And that probably was the impetus for us to say, I think we can do it. I think we can do a kitchen in 5 days. That guy was doing tract homes. We're doing custom. So
Yeah.
so we still respect ourselves for having to take 5 days to do a kitchen.
Fair enough. I think 5 is still pretty fast. So yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, I feel like that book has just a lot of gold nuggets in it. Good takeaways. All right. So who is the most inspirational person in your life?
Oh, that easily would be my father. I just have always, he was always level-headed and controlled, and just basically lived an elegant life. And I just, I really have to admire everything about how he lived his life. And he's still alive. So it's like, it's fun.
Very cool.
Every time they ask me something, I say it's fun. But
hey, life should be fun, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah.
It should be fun or don't play.
All right. Well, here's a fun one for you. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I've been waiting for this one. I think it would be the United States of America. That's my favorite superpower.
All right. I like it.
Other superpowers, they just don't rank. Don't you agree?
I definitely agree. I like that answer. Very good. All right. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Ooh. Gee. I think lived life abundantly might be my 3 words.
I like it.
That I want to know that I played this game in the short time span that I had here on this planet I played the whole game, every piece of it. I got involved, and I'm reaping the rewards of that.
I like it. That's awesome. All right. Final question for you. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say there's not just one piece of advice, that there's more than that. And that I would talk to them for an hour for free if they would give me a call.
All right. And then
So
you'll give them all 30, right?
Nice. Yeah. It's like not in one piece.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, Vincent.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Rob, I appreciate you joining me today. I know we probably could have talked all day about a lot of these things, but I feel like there are a few moments that, at least in my eyes, and I hope for a lot of people listening, were very inspiring to kind of think outside the box a little bit and kind of pull yourself out of the business for a minute or two and go, could this look differently? Could I rethink this a little bit, and how could this look better? And so I definitely pulled that out. Hopefully other people will as well, but I appreciate you spending the time with us today.
It's been fun.
I think that's a good way to close it out. Well, Rob, I appreciate it. And thanks again.
All right. Goodbye.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Rob Baugher. Again, I thought that was kind of part inspirational, part actionable in terms of the content. A couple of those stories in there really got me excited and starting to think about some things in a different way. But as per usual, I know you guys are on the go. You're in the truck, you're at the gym. So let's talk some action items. A couple of things that stood out to me. One was the Kaizen approach. We didn't talk about Kaizen specifically, but Rob talked about how do you improve your business by 1% every day? And so, hey, if you want to try to grow by 50% or improve your business by 50%, that seems like a big number. But if you just make these incremental improvements each and every day, you can make some rapid changes. So I like that one. And then action item number 2 is actually related to differentiation. So Rob talked about how he had 13 things that made him different from his competitors. So I want you to sit down and take a sheet of paper or pull out the notes app on your phone and just start to brainstorm and think, okay, what are my competitors doing? What am I doing? And how many things can you list out that really make you different? And being in business for 20 plus years isn't a good one. Quality isn't a good one. We kind of talked about that in the show, but start that list and see what you can come up with. So I think between those two things, you can make a big impact on your business pretty quickly. And again, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. This one got me really fired up, and we will see you next time on Builder Funnel Radio.